Every woman wants it. Every man needs it. Abiola on LSD. Love, sex, dating, and lifestyle. This is your life on Passion. In 5, 4, 3, 2. Woo! That is the international sound of people having fun. Hey rock stars, it's me, your girl, Abiola Abrams, and you're watching Abiola on LSD. Love, sex, dating, and lifestyles. We're broadcasting from the Jane Hotel in the West Village, and I am just thrilled right this minute. Please this punch, as my grandma would say. Or she an American grandma because she's Chinese. She doesn't say stuff like that. But I'm so excited because today I'm interviewing a personal friend of mine who I also admire deeply, the incredible Anna David. Anna is a journalist, she is a TV personality, she's a columnist, and a self-declared sex whisperer. We're going to be talking to her about her brand new book, Falling for Me, which is causing all kinds of controversy, how I hung curtains, learned to cook, traveled to Seville, and fell in love. Let's welcome Anna David.
How are you?
I'm fine. How are you?
Did I declare myself a sex whisperer?
You did declare yourself a sex whisperer.
I declare that to you in my sleep?
Sorta, kinda. Sorta, kinda.
Yeah.
Well, you are a sex whisperer.
You know, that is a funny term. I have definitely given sex, dating, and relationship advice.
Yes.
I did that on Attack of the Show for
Yes.
years. But
G4 Network.
G4 Network, and God knows I've done some whispering about sex. But yeah.
And you give great advice.
Thank you, my dear.
And great whispering about sex.
Thank you.
And here is the conundrum, and I get this all the time, and I know that you do. Like, okay, you give such great advice. Why don't you take any of it?
I know. I mean, I don't not take my own advice.
Right, exactly.
You know, I think that honestly, like, I think the question, when people go, "You're so great, how could you be single?" is the most illogical question in the world.
It's the most illogical question.
Because it's like as if the reason people are single is that they can't find anybody to date. And I think that that's part of the problem. You know, we live in a society that says there's something wrong with you if you are not married at a certain age, even though we're so evolved and things have changed so much. You know, and so just even that question is part of the problem.
Flawed on so many levels. Okay, so before we get into the whole single, why are you still single debate, single shaming, exactly. Let's talk about the premise of this book.
Yes.
Okay, now there was a little issue of a married man and personal drama and then a solution in a pink book. Tell us about it.
Well, basically, I was at a point in my life where I realized my life was not working the way I'd wanted it to. I had, I got sober, it's now almost 11 years ago.
Congratulations.
Thank you. But it's like in getting my life together, I got it so together, and I was just this like career machine. And it was like there were so many parts of me that I had totally neglected. Meeting this man, for whatever reason, unearthed all of this stuff. And I'm like, wow, this thing that I never really thought was very important, love, marriage, all of these things, I suddenly see I want, and I feel like I'm too late. I feel like, it was that game that kids play, musical chairs, and, suddenly I'm the last one standing. And I'm like, how did this happen to me? Of all people?
No,
you're right. The first girl to ever have a boyfriend in the 5th grade, And, it was an incredibly painful realization. And I basically, I'm not really a fan of self-help books. Like, I read a paragraph usually and I'm like, okay, I don't want to read anymore, great message. But I read this book, and it was like this book from the 60s that I thought was going to be full of the most antiquated advice ever. That would be like the rules, but for the 60s. Was actually all about building the most beautiful big life you can because you have the time, because you don't have kids yet.
Right.
Make it as big and wonderful and meaningful and about you as you possibly can, so that you can, Helen Gurley Brown wrote, husbands are for the worst years of your life. You don't need it at this point.
Right.
And I realized through reading this book, and especially through embracing everything that was in this book, that I had really bought into this societal notion that there was something wrong with me because I was single. I was half a person.
That's the crazy thing, is that, you know, I meet so many like incredible, intelligent, beautiful, talented women who, you know, self-declared feminists, and we think we've got it all together. But there's kind of, you know, we get still conditioned along with everyone else, you know, that if somehow you haven't jumped on the fairy tale wagon, that something's wrong.
And I think it's so confusing at this time in history. I mean, for all women, the married mothers don't have it easier, trust me, you know, but like, you know, it's like our mothers, or their generation anyway, you know, fought for all these wonderful freedoms that we have.
Which is the thing. We were raised by, I know that certainly in school, that I was educated by like the most radical feminists you can imagine. You know, which makes sense.
Well, and it's like, also I say this in the book, but you know, we were taught, you know, our mothers were like, you don't have to cook. That's a sign of liberation. And you get to adulthood, you're like, I don't know how to cook. I'm screwed.
I can't cook. I
Shop
can't clean. I can't,
you know, I wish I'd known. I wish I'd learned these things. And you know, it's like we veered so far in the other direction that in many ways I sort of forgot I was a woman, or how to be a woman. See, you're different. You've always been, or as long as I've known you, very womanly, very girly, very much celebrating your femininity.
Well, the interesting thing is, Anna, that my mother, my family is not from here. So for me, I kind of had a different message at home and then a different message in school. And I went to Manhattan all-girls schools.
You went to like
I went to the Brewerly, and so it was very much like, you know, that whole like, you're a woman, you know, don't be sexual. Like, I'm embarrassed, you know, when I talk to like Brewerly people about things that I've done that I'm proud of in the rest of my life, in 99% of my life, except for when I'm talking to them and I'm like, I'm sorry that I'm not running a corporation. I'm writing books for women and talking about sexuality and you know, the things that make me me, that I'm excited about. And I think that, would you agree that maybe that they had to go so far to the left for us to come back to the center?
I just don't know that we're coming back to the center.
You don't?
No, I don't.
Wait, let's talk about your Huffington Post column. All right, so Anna caused quite a stir over the past few weeks on Huffington Post because she wrote an article entitled,
Women Had It Better in the 60s.
Explain yourself, lady.
Well, the article that I turned in was actually called Why I Follow Helen Gurley Brown, and there was a line in it that said, in many ways, I think women had it better in the 60s.
Oh, and then that became the title.
Yes, and I understand. I, you know, edit a website too. You want the, you know.
You want the sizzle.
You want things people are going to click on. But the in many ways was definitely overlooked. And I understood. I knew it would piss people off. I understood that from the beginning. So I really wasn't that surprised.
It's a good conversation. I'm glad that women are having the conversation.
And they did have the conversation. If I had the strength to go and read the comments, I hear that the conversation was really, really interesting, and it became a lot about abortion and all of these things. And you know, I sort of got the gist that the comments were really, really negative, and I just decided not to go there.
I think that it's interesting. I mean, and I'm glad to hear that from you, because one person in the comments, which I did read the comments.
Yes.
But one person in the comments, she accused you of running away. She said that, you know, that you had said these things and now you've run away. And
I wrote a follow-up piece.
Well, maybe she didn't get to see that.
I mean, no. I mean, the truth is, you know, a lot of loony bins spend time on, you know, commenting on websites, and you know, so I didn't run away. This really awesome Forbes blogger that I don't know, you know, wrote the next day, you know, Anna David is my new favorite writer. She's written What No One Else Will Say. You know, it goes on and on and on, and that got tweeted everywhere.
That is exciting.
That was great. That was amazing.
Great. And that is amazing.
And she just emailed me
when
the
you
other day.
get stuck in the headline, you know, women had it better in the 60s, then it's like, you know, to me, like, well, what women? Because black women certainly didn't, you know. You know, my parents, well, they weren't here in the 60s, but, you know, I think when my mother came, I think it was like 1970, and she had been a teacher in Guyana, and she came here, and then they were like, well, the only thing for you to do is be a domestic in 1970. And that lasted like one day. She went like for one day, and she was just like, no, so I thought it was like, I was like, I know Anna, and I see what she's saying, but I think that people kind of went off on their own.
And I knew they would, you know, and that's completely fine. You know, some of the hate mail I got was filled with a lot of insanity, but everybody, like, I think that, if they're inspired to talk, that's great.
Right.
And, and I did do a follow-up, and it didn't,
cause the same buzz.
Well, no, it didn't, it didn't really calm them down any, but,
Well, the thing that I really did not like about some of these commenters is that, they were having these, like, a very, like, personal response towards you as a person, and they were like, oh, look at her, she's beautiful. Like, it was like, okay, she's attractive, so what she says is automatically not valid.
Right.
What does she know? Oh, she's a young woman.
I know. I did
clearly
notice
being
that.
young and attractive, she must be an idiot.
But I did notice that they were. I was being criticized for my age, and I was like, how fantastic to be called young. That's what I took out of it. I was like, oh, I'm so used to feeling shame about my age because I feel too old. These people think I'm too young. Most attacks are pretty personal. When you write the kind of stuff that I do, even my first novel was so autobiographical. I mean, I'm used to and honestly, that's what commenters do. They want to attack you on a personal level.
There are sites that I create content for that I don't go and read the comments on first, because you can't internalize all of that stuff.
But we also, I think a lot of writers know what are the sites that have the really mean, hateful people, and what are the sites that don't.
And they're commenting anonymously. You're speaking as Anna David. This is the only name you have. This is who you are as a person. And you're being honest about your life and about your feelings. Who knows what the life is of these people that are saying these things? And the thing is also, which I thought was really great that you pointed out, is that there is this dichotomy that Hillary Clinton is fabulous and she's followed all those rules, but she also stayed with Bill Clinton, as did Huma stay with Anthony Weiner. Talk a little bit about that.
Well, to me, look, it's so hard to comment on, relationships that, I don't really know what went down. But I thought Huma was really interesting in that, like, you can do it all. You can be this completely evolved, brilliant, glamorous, woman, and your husband can still humiliate you. And then what people do, what people started to say was, oh, it serves her right. She obviously married him for the wrong reasons.
Yeah, they don't know anything about her, why she married him, or they know nothing about it.
And, it is just sort of the human, we live in a very sexist society for however much we say we don't. And, there are very complicated reasons why women stay with men who cheat on them. I have no idea. There's no, oh, you need to do this, or, you can't do that. But I just think that it's complicated, and the reverse doesn't seem to be true. I mean, sure, a man can be cuckolded or whatever, but, it doesn't feel like the kind of public humiliation.
Well, one of the things that I thought was interesting, and I think that I wasn't sure what you were trying to say, so I'd love you to speak a little bit more on it. When you were talking about Gloria Steinem, it seemed that there was this kind of either or, that it was, Helen Gurley Brown or Gloria Steinem. And I think you can, for me, like, I feel like it's both. That I always say I'm the daughter of Oprah and Madonna. Of Candida Royale and Eve Ensler, who I've worked with and love them both.
No, of course. I mean, I never said that, nor do I think that. I think that, I think Gloria Steinem's amazing. I think she, the last big things she stirred up was the Playboy TV show is glamorizing something that wasn't glamorous. And it's like, that TV show was just unwatchable. I know because I watched it.
I did watch it too, and that's why it was canceled very promptly.
Everybody knew that show was not going to make a cultural impact. Like, if we're going to get people stirred up, let's get them stirred up about things that matter.
Real things.
Yeah. I mean, let's get them stirred up about how mean women are to each other. I mean, those comments were not from men.
No, they weren't.
And
they were biting, and they were personal.
Yeah.
And they were attempting to shame you.
Yeah. I mean, God, every second we talk, I'm more and more glad I didn't read them.
Let's move on from the comments.
It makes me feel good I didn't read them.
Let's talk about your fabulous book. Okay, so you had a list of life improvement things that you did.
Yeah.
All right. You studied French. There was French homework. There was rollerblading. There was pottery class. There was a voice coach. There was a life coach. There was makeup. There was fashion.
Yeah. There's something for everyone.
Talk about that.
Well, it's interesting because, I mean, those are all a little bit separate, but, I realized when I started this that, like, anything that I was not good at, I didn't want to do. No, and that's normal. Most of us just want to do the things that we're good at. But somehow in my mind, it had built up into this, it is humiliating to be seen trying something and not being brilliant at it. I don't know where I got that, but it had stopped me from like, oh, I can't do that because I don't know how to do that. I can't go rollerblading. Like,
well, you're a perfectionist.
Yeah, I mean, but there was so much shame involved with trying to do something and not being excellent at it. And I just had this voice in my head that would just, it would feel painful. And I just am like, I am going to fight through this. I'm going to do these things where I actually feel stupid. And, you know, I'll go to French class, you know, and I'm not that good at that. And there were these people that were getting it right away. And the most liberating thing that happened is I finally just, you know, raised my hand and I said to my teacher, who wanted us all to be speaking in French all the time, I can't say this in French, but I'm not really getting what's happening anymore. I'm going to keep coming to the class because I'll get it more than if I stop coming to the class.
Right.
But I don't think I'm going to be able to take the final exam. And he's like, bien sûr. C'est pas mal, you know, and it was fine, and it was so
I don't know
liberating.
What that means.
It was just like, that's fine.
Okay.
It's not so bad, you know. You know, it was like admitting that I'm not doing this the way I want to. Of course, and through doing all of those things, it's like I moved back to LA in February. I don't think I would have ever done that if it hadn't been for really getting clear about who am I, what do I want, what makes me happy. Forget what everyone else is saying. And now it's like, I don't even think about it. I took a cooking class last month. It wasn't some big thing to sign up. You know, I biked to the farmer's market. I now cook meals for my friends on Sundays. You know, all these things that I just don't even think about that used to literally terrify me.
That is incredible.
It's true. It's so you. Don't you love that?
It is. I do
Yeah.
love it. Because you started out, you were a single girl with cats.
Yeah, I
now,
still
did
am.
You take, okay, good. I was going to say, where are the 2 kitty cats?
Oh, I love them to death.
Yay, okay,
love them.
okay.
Yeah, we don't get rid of the cats.
Get abandoned in this whole story and process.
Never.
Okay.
Never.
Now, the book is called Falling for Me because you fell for yourself.
Yeah, and I mean, that's kind of honestly the kind of statement that would make me want to hurl at a certain point because it just sounds, I
love it.
But it sounds, I'm a cynic, you know, and it sounds so, you know, trite or something like that. But the truth is, like, I had gotten so far down the scale of not loving myself that I really needed to, you know.
But see, that wasn't clear from the outside. The interesting thing is that, you know, when we know people, we're dealing with them and also their representative. Because if you would have asked me, I would have thought that you were the most like confident, in love with herself woman that I know.
Yeah, I mean, I think that perception is really different. I don't know if that's I mean, I think a lot of us are like that, but I know it is, I'm only me, I know it is true for me that people will say that to me, and I'm just like, or they'll say to me, you know, you're the happiest person I know, and I'm like, how long have we been talking? I'm the most tormented person I know. But yeah, no, I mean, if you read the book, it's pretty obvious how much I struggle with, you know, self-hatred and, you know, and just really accepting myself, you know, and I think it has a lot to do with how we grow up, and, you know, my parents are wonderful, but they didn't, you know, a lot of stuff happened that, you know, contributed to that.
You're the first person that I heard that used the term family of origin.
Oh, really? Because I'm in recovery. That's like that's hilarious that you remember that. When did I say that?
I don't know. I don't know, but I think that another great lesson is that, you know, the stages of life.
Yeah.
That, you know, you got sober, clean and sober 10 years ago. You're executive editor of The Fix.
Yeah.
But that didn't mean that now you were healed, hallelujah, I'm healed of
Not
everything.
at all. In fact, the sober people I know that don't work on themselves are so much sicker than like the alcoholics I know.
That makes sense.
It does. It does, because, you know, if you are addicted to alcohol or drugs, like, that's your elixir. That is like you know, you take that away, you've still got the problems, and you don't have a solution. So I find that I have to work really hard on the solution, and this was all part of it, actually.
Well, I say brava. I think well done. I think you did a phenomenal job. And
Thank you.
I'm going to be singing the praises of this book everywhere. Oh, of course, you guys know that I can't let Anna leave without talking to her about the official Bombshell Handbook. So that's going to be my next book, which is a multimedia venture. Very exciting. Anna, you're a bombshell.
I don't know.
No, you are. I've redefined bombshell to mean a woman who owns herself.
Okay.
Tell us what you think is bombshell about you.
Oh, Christ.
Come on, Anna.
You know, I think that, you know, I think what's bombshell about me is that I finally accept me as I am, and I am not trying to be my mother's daughter, and I am not trying to be my teacher's best student, and I am not trying to be the woman that can be the most appealing to some guy, but I'm being exactly who I am, which isn't perfect at all, isn't sexy all the time, isn't smart all the time, but it's just me.
Yay. How very Bridget Jones, just as I am. No. Can't let the sex whisperer go without you giving us some sex tips. 3 Anna David sex tips.
Oh, Jesus Christ, I'm on the spot.
Come on, 3 Anna David sex tips.
Oh, and to the camera?
Yes, share them with my rock stars.
Okay, rock stars. Sex tips. You know, my greatest sex tip is be comfortable with who you are. Do not try to play a sex goddess in bed. That is such a turnoff, and it's really, really obvious. Do what you're comfortable with. Don't do anything you're not comfortable with. And learn, you know, to listen to what it is you want, what you feel like doing. If you don't feel like doing that anymore, it is perfectly acceptable to get the hell out of there, just to explain that. And don't let anybody shame you for your sexuality. I think that, and I don't mean gender preference, I mean sexuality. You know, I think that a lot of what we've been talking about is about how women have evolved and how women have not evolved. And no matter how much more equality there is today, I think women feel, a lot of women, intrinsic shame for being sexual outside of a marriage, in any, you know, situation. Just say F that. You know, it's beautiful and wonderful to be in touch with your sexuality. Don't let anybody shame you for it.
I think that that is phenomenal advice.
That is so you too.
I love it. It is. And that's why I'm so, well, no, that's not, I'm so excited about this book because it reminds me of me now.
The narcissist reaction.
It must be brilliant.
Yes.
No, but that definitely is so me, because I had, if I can share with you.
Please.
This story. A few years ago, I created this festival in association with Eve Ensler, and it was called the Until the Violence Stops Women's Festival. Now, we had a forum at the Museum of the City of New York, and I invited different women from different walks of life, like the head of PBS was there, and Kathy Bates, and, you know, Candida Royale, who's the erotica queen who produced my film
Aphrodite Superstar.
Aphrodite Superstar, you know, and so and Eve Ensler, and all of these women were a part of this forum.
Right.
But I was still kind of living this double life of, you know, Abiola as, you know, the erotica director and who writes about sex and all of that, and Abiola as the political activist. Like, somehow these things needed to be separate.
Right.
You know, and so it was already very high pressure for me to have, like, these two women that I idolized, Candida Royale and Eve Ensler, being there on the same stage.
Opposite sides of the spectrum.
Yes.
Right.
And so we're having this conversation, and Candida accidentally outs me as having directed this erotica film, you know, because she assumed that, as you know, that I was an empowered woman, having this forum, that I would be proud of everything I was doing. And she goes, you know, well, like Abiola directed an erotic film, blah 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 blah, and Kathy Bates and Eve Ensler were like, and I'm like mortified, like I thought that I would burst into flames on that stage, because somehow, you know, I had digested the message that, you know, your sexuality was still a shameful, closeted thing. Even as a woman who felt empowered and excited enough to create and direct an erotic film. A big lesson came from you, Anna, that you were looking at my website and critiquing it as a friend. And you looked at the site and you said, you did this big film, Aphrodite Superstar, was nominated for 7 AVN Awards and this, that, and the other, and got all this acclaim, and a number of women have written PhD papers about the film. And you were like, why is it buried in your site? And at the time, like, I couldn't face the answer, but what I realized very recently is that because I was still ashamed.
I remember that too, because I remember when you came on the radio show, we would talk about this.
I was still ashamed even when I came on the radio.
No, but I think it's a lot of work. No matter how evolved you are, no matter how comfortable you are battling a constant message from society, you know, so it makes sense.
It does make sense, and a part of it is that, you know, like I said, I have this great feminist, you know, education and background behind me that says, you know, you know, that and somehow you're not a sexual person, and if you
but that's that Helen Gurley Brown, the reason she was controversial is she was sort of the first one to say you can be an empowered woman, you can support yourself, and you can be sexy.
Yes.
And that, you know, that wasn't really the feminist angle at all.
It wasn't. But it's our angle.
Yeah.
So take that.
Yeah.
And I found recently, as we wrap up, this cookbook that someone gave me, a Helen Gurley Brown cookbook. And so I was like, in tribute to Anna, I'm going to cook from this
Her recipes are kind of bad.
They looked really scary.
Yeah. You know, Helen, well, she definitely divides it into food that you're making for him and food you're making for you. You know, that is a woman who said a touch of anorexia is necessary in order to maintain an ideal weight.
No.
You know, so her ideas, you know, I don't sign off on every single one of them. But yeah, I made some of her foods too, and some of them turned out well, and others.
Well, I'll cook some in tribute to you and let you know how it goes.
Yes, please do.
All right, so we're thrilled about the book. Falling for Me is available wherever you buy books. Go pick it up.
You can even buy it online at Walmart and Target.
Really?
Yes. You really feel like you made it then.
Are you going to show up? Can people go to Walmart?
No, I don't think it's in the stores, but you know, one baby step at a time.
One baby step at a time.
Yeah.
Congratulations, Anna. I'm really excited. And where can people powwow with you online? You're very active in social media.
I'm very active in social media. My Twitter is just Twitter/Anna David. Right?
Is it Anna David or Anna B. David?
I changed it.
Okay.
It used to be Anna B. David. Look at you. Nothing gets by you. My Facebook, I have a Facebook fan page, and I have a Facebook page. What else do I do?
You're at AnnaDavid.com?
AnnaDavid.com. I answer almost every email I ever get. So find me.
Yay! Anna is amazing. I hope that you get her book. Hit me up and let me know what you think. I'm at AbiolaTV.com, Twitter at AbiolaTV, Facebook.com/AbiolaTV. All right, my loves. Now, this is the kind of corny thing that Anna would call corny anyway, but I love it. So, be good. And if you can't be good, be safe. Love you. Bye.
That's so funny.